Next thing I want to do is actually make it so a user can add their time zone to their profile when they're making an account or editing an account, and that's going to matter later on when a user is going to add an activity, and they're going to want to say like when they did that activity. So it's going to be important to be able to have that relative to their time zone. So the first thing I'm going to do here is just make a new branch. I'll just call it time zone or time zones. We'll create that. Then I'll go into my code editor and run git fetch and then git checkout time zones. Okay, so the next thing we want to do here is actually add that field, add a time zone field to not only the sign up form but also the edit form. So to do that, we can go into app, views, devise, and then let's start with registrations. So new registration. So we have email, password. So I guess after email, we'll want to add the time zone field. And I'm going to get it from the Rails docs here. So time zone select, I think that's what we want. Time zone select. We want to do time zone. Form control. We don't want a placeholder because it's actually going to be a select list. Let's just give this a shot. All right, so if we go to create an account, let's see what this looks like. Define time zone. Oh, okay, so rookie mistake here. We have to actually add this to our migration, or we have to create a migration and add that column to the users table. So let's clear this out. Because right now, if we go to our users table, these are all the columns that are on the table. You'll notice there's no time zone. So let's do Rails generate migration, add time zone to users, and we'll set it to a string. And if we open this up, we can see here that we're adding a time zone column to the users table. I actually want to set a default value to UTC, and we want to have it so that it cannot be null. So that way, like, all the records in the database are going to default to UTC, and they will not be null. Let's do Rails DB migrate. Okay, so that seemed to work. Let's check out the schema file. So we have this new column here, time zone. It's going to default to UTC, and it needs to have a value. So actually, before I get too far, let's go into the user test. Let's just write a test for this. So should have default value of UTC for time zone. And we can see here in this user record that we're instantiating, we're not actually setting a time zone. So what we can do here to test this is do user.save, which will actually save it because calling .new just instantiates it. .save actually saves it to the database. And then we can do assert user.reload. And we do reload to make sure it's getting the most recent values off this time zone, or assert, I think, equal UTC user.reload at time zone test models user. Okay, so actually this is probably a good place to commit. So I'm going to add the schema, the test, and the migration file. Okay, so now if we go back to our form, okay, so now if we go back to our form, we're getting a new error, and I think it's just because autofocus is not something that works on a time zone select form element. So let's just get rid of that. And if I name form control, let's see here. I might just have my, okay, so this is loading. I just need to get the, okay, so I'm looking at the docs here, and I'm not putting things in the correct order. So I think what I need to do is method is this, and then priority zones, I think we leave that blank. We don't have any options to pass in, although actually probably want to do, well, we can set a default value in a minute, but let's just see what this does. Okay, so this is just kind of a good exercise in like learning how to read the docs. So I just went to api.rubyonrails.org, put in time zone select, and I can see here it's expecting at the most 1, 2, 3, 4 arguments. So the method would just be like the column name, and then the priority zones, I actually don't know what this means, but because I don't know what it means, I'm just going to leave it as nil. For right now, I'm not going to pass any options in, so I'm going to leave it blank. And then for HTML options, I want to add the class of form control. But I can't just write, I have to actually add nil and this empty hash in order to actually assign a class, because when I leave these off, as you saw, it doesn't work, and that's because there's only 2 arguments, and then it thinks that this right here has to do with the priority zones, but it doesn't. So that's just kind of an exercise in like knowing how to work with reading the docs pretty much. I'm also going to add a label here, so f.label, I think I guess do time zone select. That should work, right? Time zone. And you know what? I think I'll keep it off. I like the way this looks. So, oh, and you know what? This is cool. It's defaulting to UTC because of our database default value, I think. So that's cool. So a user can go in here and actually set their time zone, but this won't work yet because we need to whitelist this parameter. So this time zone column is not going to be accepted when we create a new user, and that's because we have to whitelist it first. So I'm going to close out of the server and clear this out. And I know if I run Rails generate, I'm going to get a list of all the available commands that come with Rails. And what we want to do here is do Rails generate device controllers, I think. And this is going to allow us to be able to whitelist that particular parameter. So let's do Rails generate device controller. I'm actually going to pass in help to see what it expects. Okay, so we do, in this case we want to do users because we're working with the users model. And let's see, we don't want to do sessions. I think we want to do registrations. I'm going to make sure I copy this. Generate sessions. Let's just give this a shot. Okay, so that made a new controller here. Some setup. Okay, so let's see here. We want to add this to our routes. So controllers, sessions, user sessions. Okay. And that should map here. And I think what we can do is, see, this gives us all these examples in here. And I think we can, if you have extra params to permit, append them to the sanitizer. So configure sign up, configure account update. So we actually want to whitelist both of these. So sign up, permit account update, keys, attribute. If you have extra keys or extra params to permit, append them to the sanitizer. I forget if these are examples or if this is, I think I want to just put time zone in each of these. And this is for updating your account, so I can show you what that looks like in a minute. But actually, we'll go in here. Let's copy this from the new form. So app, use registrations. So for editing your registration, you're editing your account. And we want to put it under email, because for consistency's sake. Let's clear this out. Form and start. So let's just see if this is working. And we'll write some tests for this too, but I kind of want to just work from the outside in and see if this can work. So refresh the page. I'll do test at test.com. Actually, let's do something that's gonna stand out. Okay, so we get this. No surprise there. Oh, interesting. Uninitialized constant sessions controller. Oh, one thing I realized, so I should also uncomment out protected, because these are protected methods. And then I also need to whitelist these. And I probably need to whitelist new, sign up, and I think edit. Actually, no, I don't think I need to do that. But let's see. Let's try this again. So let's just see if that actually, remote has been verified, sign in, user sign in, unmalicious. Okay, so I think I know what the problem is. I just blindly copied and pasted sessions into here, but I'm actually doing it for registrations. So that was just because earlier when I was doing this and I ran that Rails generate devise controller command, it just spit out like, oh hey, you're gonna need to go update your routes, but it just gives you a blanket example and it doesn't actually care what you're working on. And in my case, I was working on registrations. So let me see if I can spell this right. So we want to replace sessions with registrations here. And this should help. So let's do test at test.com. Okay, so I'm signed in, and it's actually no account. There's no way to edit my account right now, but if I do, let's see here. User edit, I think. User edit. Maybe users edit. Okay, so it did not actually persist. Although it may not have actually worked the first time because I didn't have these commented out. So you know what? Let's do another account here. So test 2. Check out this confirmation link. Okay, so this is good, so it's not breaking anymore. Then if we go to users edit, okay, awesome, that's persisting. This seems like a good place to save right now, and then we can write some tests to make sure this actually works without having to manually do it all the time. So git status, commit. So add time zone field to users registration. Make sure that's spelled right. Registration form.